Education is considered the cornerstone of any society striving for development, which is called to protest the perceived government inaction regarding the adverse effects of the removal of subsidy on petrol. However, many individuals hold the view that the labor unions have let down the people. They believe that the leadership of the labor movement has been compromised. Nevertheless, the labor leaders maintain that there is no need to resort to extreme measures when the government has shown a willingness to compromise. In an exclusive interview, our guest, a petroleum engineer, asserts that strikes should be viewed as a means to an end rather than the ultimate action in resolving disputes. He also discusses some of the union's efforts to create a conducive work environment and improve society for the benefit of the workers and the general populace. Tonight on Newsnight, we sit down with Festus Osifo, who holds the positions of President of the Trade Union Congress and President of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSN. Thank you very much for coming on to Newsnight today.
Thank you so much for your time.
But let's start out real quick. Recently, the organized labor decided that suspending a strike that they had been pushing for a while. I mean, since the new administration of President Tinubu. Suddenly, he suspended it. Do you think that's what Nigerians really wanted?
Strike, it's not actually an end to itself. It's a means to an end. So the organized labor was not actually pushing for a strike. What the organized labor was pushing for was for the government to be responsive to the plight of the workers and to the plight of the masses. So now, if that happens, so what would actually be the need for the strike? You could go on strike for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and issues not solved. And you are not able to reach a truce or sign the kind of communique or MOU that we did. Like we said, when this entire thing started, so we kept pushing. We kept having meetings. We were trying to get government to commit them to sign an agreement with us. To say, okay, on this is what we are going to do. On this other area, we are going to do this. So we were pushing them to sign that agreement, but they were not willing to commit. So after we issued the ultimatum, so they sat down with us, and what we have been asking them to do in the last 2-3 months, they now agreed to do them. So what is the essence for the strike? The strike will come up again if what we have signed, they refuse to implement. So in the next 30 days, if they refuse to show any commitment, because truthfully, they will not be able to implement everything in that communique within 30 days. In fact, if you see some of them, they should be implemented sometime in November and even much more. But the quick wins, if they are able to do that within 30 days, then what is the essence for the strike? Like as I have said, strike is not an end, but a means to an end.
Let's go back a bit. Mr. Festus Osifo, student activist, labor activist, yet a petroleum engineer. Walk us a bit through this journey of yours and why are you so focused on this labor thing?
Just as you've asked, my friends, my classmates in school, they've been a bit, they ask me questions every now and then, most especially when I started this, a while ago. They felt that, no, because then in school, their thought was, Festus is going to be maybe a lecturer, a professor, or something like that. That you veered off and you are not doing trade unionism. It's actually something that has been deep in me. It's actually fight against injustice. When I was employed by Total Energies E&P, and I was posted to a platform then in offshore facilities, then I saw some pocket of injustice here and there that I was meant to correct. So after correcting that particular injustice, a lot of my colleagues came to me that they want me to be a PENGASSN official. So that was actually how it started. But looking back today, I think it's something that is quite worthwhile because when you put smiles in the faces of people, when you look at those that are helpless and you try to strengthen them and you try to do everything possible to ensure that their life is meaningful, that they are not oppressed. If nobody says thank you, I think there's a supernatural being that watches over the affairs of men. So I'm really happy that I'm into this path, but it does not remove anything for me being a petroleum engineer. Yeah, I mean, that part is still there because today I'm still an employee of Total Energies Exploration and Production. And
even as an employee, your organization doesn't stop you from doing these things you're doing.
No, they don't. Because at the time, I was a branch chairman in Total Energies A&P. And again, as we are fighting for injustice, so we fight for injustice totally. For example, when the PIA was coming, we saw some of the things that government was trying to put into the PIA. And we know, or we knew as at then, that this was a disincentive to investment. This will make investors run away. So what did we do then under the auspices of Pengassan and Nupeng? So we did a lot of advocacy. We met them with the then Speaker, House of Representatives, and now the Chief of Staff. We met with the Senate President, trying to advocate, trying to let them understand that oil and gas, before now, was found in a couple of countries. But since the 90s, up to around 2000 and today, you have oil and gas virtually everywhere. If you go to Ghana, before now, they weren't having oil and gas, but today they have 10 field, they have Jubilee field. If you go to Mozambique, they have expanse of gas reserves. So if you go to Guyana, in fact, ExxonMobil is retreating from Nigeria, trying to consolidate in Guyana today because they have good fiscal terms and good fiscal regimes. So we intervened and made them understand. So in doing that, we also brought the petroleum economics that we studied. We brought them to bear, and we also added the activism into it. At that particular instance, the companies, including the company I work for, they were quite happy because they knew that we were bringing value to the table. We were doing that not just to help the company, but to make the Nigerian government understand that if they don't do some certain things, this company will run away. So it's actually a balanced game. Where government is going off, we try to drag them in. Where the IOCs are also acting in a way to shortchange the country, we also come in. But at the end of the day, we ensure that we have a balanced system or a balanced environment where both the government will not be shortchanged, the companies will not be shortchanged, and the employees as well will not be shortchanged.
Okay, let's get back to that matter of the suspended strike now and the current state of labor in Nigeria. This is not the first time that Labour has threatened to go on strike. Practically on every other note, as long as I can remember, almost every year Labour threatens to go on strike for one reason or the other. Is it possible that Labour can take the word strike away from its language?
Yes.
I know you said strike is not the end game.
Yes.
So, but is it possible that to take that word? Because Nigerians have gotten, it's like they've had it up to here.
So, like I said earlier, you threaten strike to get something. So once you get what you are threatening to go on strike for, you relax. So strike is always the last tool that will be deployed. For example, as president of Pengassan as well, so at the time, we had some issues in one of the IOCs. They were doing negotiations and they weren't forthcoming. So we kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Do you know that it took us over 3 months of constant negotiation on a daily basis, trying to get them to do what was right, but they refused. We threatened strike. They did not budge. We now also extended, after the ultimatum expired, we extended it. The reason we were doing this was because we knew that it is going to lead to production shutdown. It's going to lead to a shortfall in production. So we kept bringing all the stakeholders. We wrote to the Nigerian Oil Company, NNPC Limited. We wrote to NUINS, a subsidiary of NNPC Limited. We wrote to all the stakeholders. So after we have exhausted this, then we now went on strike. When we went on that strike, it cost the nation about 300,000 barrels production of crude oil per day. And this was shut in for about 2 weeks before they now did what was right. So you could see the steps. It took 3 months for us to get to that point where we had to shut down production. So strike, to coordinate a strike, it's not actually easy. We that are coordinating it, we put a lot into it. The workers put a lot into it. Of course, the government also make a lot of effort not to also make the strike work. So for us, it is not something that we are so happy in doing, like as we all have always said, we have a toolbox. The first thing we pick from that toolbox is meetings, dialogue, consultations. Confrontation is actually at the end. So anytime we threaten strike, anytime we give strike notice, what we actually want is that let the other party, be it government, be it management of companies, let them come and sit down and have a conversation with us. It is when there is no conversation or when there is no agreement that strike will come. Let me give you an instance. Like the agreement that was signed on Monday. Let's assume we went to that meeting, and in that meeting we were demanding, federal government said it is going to be 25,000 as announced by the president for federal workers that are drawing their remuneration from the treasury. No, initially from the treasury. So if you do that, you are excluding other sections of the federal workers, because those are people drawing money from appropriation. There are a lot of federal agencies that are self-sustaining. So if we had left it the way the president has said, it would have excluded some section of federal workers. So we got to the meeting. We explained that no, it should be the entire federal workers, whether you are drawing your money from appropriation or whether you are self-sustaining. Let's assume they did not agree to that. Let's assume they did not agree to move from 25,000 to where we are today. I can tell you that the strike would have happened because on their part, they have compromised. Yes, what we wanted was more than 35,000. But at the end of the day, we came to a middle point. So on our part, we must also be ready to compromise as well.
In doing this, did you also consider the fact that they are state workers? They are also the private sector workers.
Yes,
was NECA wasn't in that meeting?
You are right. You are correct. You are very correct. If you look at the agreement that we signed, there's a provision in that agreement that talked about the federal government should urge both state workers and those in the private sector to take a key. But the way we are organized in trade union is that we have structures everywhere, like in TUC and also in NLC, for example. There are a lot of companies that are from the private sector. Like I, for example, work as a staff of Total Energies Exploration and Production. I work from the private. I'm from the private sector. So as a private sector employees, we have a branch chairman in each of these companies. So it is not their responsibility, and we'll give them all the support to immediately start conversation. So a lot of them have started. I can tell you a lot of companies, they have started responding even before the federal government did. But for those that have not responded, we will also encourage our respective branches to liaise with them and have conversations with them. Then on the issue of state, like from the TUC angle, what we did about 3 weeks ago, we set up a committee across the 6 geopolitical zones for them to collate reports on what each of these states are doing. So we have the report as we speak now. The report, we have collected the report. We are trying to look at those states that are not doing what is right. Then we will support our state councils to have those conversations. I could tell you, 1 or 2 states today, a state like Oyo, I got information this morning that the government is ready to do something. They took the communique that we signed, wrote a letter to the governor, and he said that he was going to also comply. So, this was just today. We believe that before the end of the week, or maximum in the next 2 weeks, most of the states, we will also get them on board. Those that want to get on board peacefully, we encourage them to do so. But those that want us to also come to the street and shout before they get on board, we are equally ready as well.
You know, this conversation about labor and leadership or government, as the case may be, as we said earlier, is not something that it's been there from the 40s and all. Yeah. But does labor ever go for dialogue or these conversations to say cost of governance?
In the altar, if you see the earlier conversations we had with government, that was one of the things that we were actually pushing. That as government, you cannot ask the people to keep sacrificing. You cannot ask the people to keep tightening their belt. And now, they've even moved beyond the last hole in the belt. But you as a government, you are enlarging your coast. So, in fact, the meeting that myself and the NLC president had with the president of Nigeria on the 2nd of August, we told him point blank that, Mr. President, you are not doing enough. that, Mr. President, you and your people, you are not making sacrifices. That as at then, you have submitted close to 40 names to the Senate. And as at today, as we speak, it's about 48.
51 names, right?
Oh, 51, okay, 48 plus the extra 3. Yes. Correct. So now you are enlarging the coast because these ministers, they are going to have PA, the PA will have SA, then the SA will have SA too. At the end of the day, you are multiplying these, the positions, and you are increasing the cost of governance. That for us, we think that as a president, you must lead by example. That as a president, you must be able to demonstrate that you are ready to cut the cost of governance. That, for example, when you are going abroad, your delegations abroad, that goes with you abroad, it needs to be cut down. Because outside the ticket cost, you have the cost of the extra codes. And most of these people, they don't add value to the process. That you have to look at that. So on his path, he also told us of the effort he was trying to make, that he has looked at it, that when he came in, he wanted to bring his own personal private jet to use, but security said no, that he wanted to cut down his convoy. In fact, he was even trying to reach the head of brigades of guard, the CSO, that they came to him, that he said no, president is their function, the number of cars you go with, it's what they design, it's not you, that he has done his best. But we told him that you have not done enough. We also drew his attention to the National Assembly. We drew his attention to what is happening currently in some of these ministries. We told him as well that if any of our members are also involved in any way, that we are ready to support him and strengthen the process. Because for us, it is not about any individual, it's about getting it right as a country. So on that day, he told us that, okay, he's going to look at some of these areas, that the people that are being employed in the presidency, there's also a way to create job. That was part of the defense that he came with. That, oh no, that a minister having 2 or 3 aides, that who are these people that are being employed? That are they not Nigerians? We said, yes, we understand. But these people, how do you also monitor them to ensure that some of these aides will not go to different ministries with their ID card and with their complimentary card and start extorting people here and there? That's so we know what is happening, that you should be on top of your game to ensure that Nigerians are not exploited.
So that's the conversation you had with the president?
Yes, correct.
But the question I asked is, has Labour ever said, look, if you don't cut down the cost of governance, we will strike? Because all the demands you're putting out there, you might say they are fantastic demands. Ensure the roads are good, ensure the refineries, and we'll talk about the refineries, ensure this. But that cost of governance, nobody has heard Labour say, look, for this one here, we no agree.
You know, before now, it was more or less like business as usual. In the sense that, before now, government was paying subsidy. Before now, things were relatively... So as at then, we may not have gotten to that point. Yes, in the past, there have been a lot of, agitations here and there. But it hasn't led to the fact that Labour is saying that if you don't cut down cost of governance, we will go on strike. But I think we will get there very soon. Because the people are suffering. And because the people are suffering, now our satellite has been, we have actually increased our reach to ensure that even the areas we are not looking at before, we are going to start paying much more attention to them. For example, you saw what happened with the CBN and the issue of Ways and Means. We were not aware. Nobody knew about it. But now that is in the public domain, we now need to pay more attention to that. So the same thing as well. We are going to set up a committee that is going to look specifically on those areas where we must focus on, areas what government can do to cut down the cost of governance. As a branch chairman in Total, we did it. When I was a branch chairman in Total, sometime in 2015, what we did was that the management of then Total, now Total Energies. So there were some issues within the company as at then. And so they were looking at processes whereby, okay, what can they do to optimize service delivery and optimize performance and also improve on the ROI. So as a body, we know, or we knew as at then, that if we don't come out to assist management, to look at those areas and find details on the areas they could cut, they will come to our remuneration. Because whenever any organization is facing challenges, whenever any country is facing challenges, the first place they look at is the remuneration of a workforce. So we sat down, we came out with 8 points on what we think could be done. And we push it to the then MD who implemented most of these. That was why when there was economic downturn in 2016, the oil and gas industry, the company was not affected. So we did that through concerted effort. So in this regard as well, we are also looking at that. Because if we don't have clear facts, we must have our clear facts, we must have our clear figures, so that when we are engaging government with the information is right there. If you just tell them, okay, we want you to cut down cost of governance, and you don't have specifics, it's a problem. But in area of that specificity, we are actually working on it, and I think in the next 1 or 2 months, we'll be able to put all this together and forward it to government, and we'll follow through.
Mr. Sufo, fantastic. Okay, it's a good thing that you had this conversation with the chairman, with the president, and you're talking about, look, you need to cut down cost of governance. But again, Labour sort of has been considered by many as the problem. Labour has been considered as the problem because it looks as if it's only those who are members of NLC and TUC that are catered for. The rest and how it affects the rest of the people is never considered. Yes, you say what we're doing is for the good of the people. But hey, electricity tariffs have continued to go up. Labour did not protest. Ritian was suspended. Labour protested. Okay, but what about other people that have been sacked? For instance, Labour did not protest when 7 coppers were kidnapped. Labour did not protest. Is it that Labour, which is supposed to be like a watchdog over the government, so to speak, didn't notice that coppers were kidnapped? Or Labour did not protest to say this insecurity in the country is too much?
Ineota, no. First, I wish to state this. Labour is not opposition government.
True.
Labour, we are not opposition government. So we are not constituting ourselves to be an opposition to the government in power, no. But what we do is this. What are those policies of government? Not just government, even of company management that have adverse effects on our members. At times, for every protest we organize.
Hold on.
Yes.
So it's first members of organized labor.
Correct. There is no doubt whatsoever.
Okay.
First is our members, because we are elected by our members. Like we were saying, if you check before the last election, see, as citizens, we must deepen our value system. As citizens, we must develop those tools that we will also use in holding government accountable. We have said it. See, in the role of labor in democracy is a bit different from the role of labor when you have autocracy or when you have military government. Because the democratically elected government are voted by the people. So when any government, let's even leave the federal government, let's go down to the state or even the legislative arm in the state. So a legislator comes to you, he tells you, this is my manifesto, these are the things I want to do. You should query that person based on that manifesto the person has presented. You should ask a series of questions. But I could tell you that a lot of our citizens, they don't even care about the manifesto. They don't. If you look at the developed world, you could see that a single government policy could throw at the government in the next 4 years. But here, people go around, collect whatsoever, and a bag of rice, a cup of rice here and there, and you vote for a government at the state level, you vote for a representative to your National Assembly, whom you know that this person clearly doesn't have that capacity, he doesn't have the intellect, and he doesn't have the character. But you go ahead and vote for the person. Then when the person is now there, dishing out laws that he or she does not even understand, you will not shout, oh, Labour, you come to the fray. Yes, as Labour, we will do our bit. As Labour, we will do our best. But it does not start and end with Labour. That is the overriding philosophy and thinking that we have. First, we owe it first to our members, then by extension to the people, because our members are part of the people. So if government policy is bad, if it's affecting our members, it also has a way of trickling down to the people. So that is why we always say that we do everything first to protect our members, and by extension, it gets to the people. But we are not opposition government.
Do you also look out when your members are doing wrong? Are now doing the jobs that they are meant to do? For instance, many a Labour member has been part of the corrupt processes going on in the country, in the civil service and around, but Labour hasn't called them out.
Yes. Ineota, I often refer to when I was a branch chairman in Total, and I will tell you, then there were some people in the company that did 1 or 2 infractions when it happened. When management brought the fact that these were the things that led to this, and this, we let go. We have never been known.
When management brought the fact to say these were the things that led to their sack or suspension.
No, not even suspension. In the investigation process, there must be investigation. So you won't just say, oh, someone did something and he's sacked. No, there must be investigation. There must be fair hearing. It's even guaranteed in our constitution.
Okay.
So there will be a panel. So in that panel, labor representative is always there. So when the representative sits in that panel, he listens, he sees everything. So when you there will be any instance where you see a labor leader coming out to fight for somebody that has committed infraction against a laid down process and against that procedure.
Especially when there's an investigation.
Yes, correct.
So let's just hold on here. Is it possible that money will just be moving around through from one hand to the other through the bank without the financial institutions playing a role?
I don't know. I can't really say what I don't know because I think in every facet of Nigerian society there are corrupt people. So as you find them in government, you find them both in executive, legislative arm, everywhere. So
I asked a question to come to this, and maybe one of the questions.
Okay.
But the banks, for instance, are charging sometimes some hidden charges.
Okay.
There are some hidden charges to people. There are some charges that are unexplainable. And then there are money disappearing back and forth. There are bad loans in the banks. And you have, what's the association that is affiliated to?
Asbifi.
Asbifi
Yes.
is there. And your members are part of what's going on in the banks. Do you hold them accountable for this?
This is the question, Enyota.
Because
as labor,
he that comes to equity must come with clean hands.
Absolutely. But as labor, when we talk about government has a police. Government has DSS. Government has military. They have the paraphernalia of security agencies. But as labor, all we have is our mouth. All we have is discussion. All we have is maximum the tool of strike. So what do I mean? We don't have intelligence unit that goes around to do investigation. That is not our core mandate. So everybody has their mandate. So our mandate is, how do we, one, protect the jobs of our members? How do we enhance their welfare? That includes their pay. Those are the permanent responsibility.
We've spoken about the role of labor in government and ensuring that even its workers meet up to their responsibilities. But let's talk again about, because one of the things that Labour is asking the federal government to do is to ensure that the refineries are working.
Yes, correct.
Why is Labour asking the federal government to ensure the refineries are working when the staff of the refineries are all members of the organized labour?
Yes, Nyota, I have said this severally in your studio, that if you employ me to work, it's your responsibility to give me the tools that I will work with. If you don't give me that tools that I should work with, then how do you want me to succeed? There's an example that I usually give. I bought a brand new car. I gave this car to an Uber driver. And I asked this Uber driver to be balancing me a certain amount of money every month. So he goes with the car. Then he's using the car first month, second month, third month, to the sixth month. So he came back to me and he tells me, boss, this car, we need to service this car. Because according to the manufacturer, every 6 months or every 500 kilometers, anyone that comes first, you are supposed to change the oil, you are supposed to change the filters and all whatnot. Then when he comes to me, I'll tell him, oh, silly man, go ahead and keep using the car. Then he goes away. He starts using the car, he keeps balancing me, I'm eating all the money, I don't save anything to maintain that car. So the first 6 months, it's gone. There was no maintenance. The second 6 months, there was no maintenance. Any other. What will happen to that car? The engine of that car is going to knock. So that is actually the state of the refineries today. I can tell you, not because I'm the president of Pengasan, I'm trying to defend the workforce, but I can tell you that you have seasoned employees in that refinery. I have had conversations with them. over time. You have people who are knowledgeable, people that are trained. They were some of them were trained abroad. They were sent to the best training schools to work, to learn. And they are extremely good. A bulk of them are even retired now. But the situation where they have no tools to work, what will they do? Okay, the compressors are bad. We need to fix them. Will they bring from their salaries to fix the compressors? The turbines are bad. You need to bring the original equipment manufacturer to look at some issues that is emanating from the turbine. Then management, you refuse to do it. So is it the fault of the employees? No. And so it is very easy for us to pass the buck. You are here today. I can say the cameras that are here, you did not buy it from your salary. It is your employers that bought the cameras for you to work. So if the cameras are bad tomorrow, how will you discharge your function? It becomes incredibly difficult. So that is the state that we are. It is not the employees that made the refineries to be in the state it is today.
So are you implying that all the turnaround maintenance we've heard from, I think from the 80s, almost every year, Nigeria's refineries go through turnaround maintenance. So all those turnaround maintenance never happened?
I will shock you. Some of our colleagues that worked in that refinery, let's say Port Harcourt refinery precisely, a particular employee joined NNPC in 2007. We were having a conversation sometime last year. He told me that he has never seen any turnaround maintenance in Port Harcourt refinery until last year. So that clearly shows that the turnaround maintenance that you have been hearing every now and then has been on the paper. That there has not been a single turnaround, because if you are doing turnaround maintenance, it's not something that is hidden. I'm an engineer. I work in a platform. When you are doing every year, every 2 years, there's what they call total shutdown maintenance. So you shut down the platform. You bring in thousands or thereabout, hundreds of contractors. You bring them in to do a lot of fix, a lot of work around those equipment. That is why you don't have those issues when it comes to international oil companies, because they have a maintenance culture and a maintenance system. But in Nigeria, you hear them in Federal Executive Council telling you that they are about carrying out a turnaround maintenance for a system that works. Why will you need a Federal Executive Council meeting to approve a turnaround maintenance for you? Why can't the maintenance manager in that organization put out a maintenance work plan, get it approved by its management, and get it fixed? That is how it works. But we politicize everything. And I could tell you, those approvals that they give, in most cases, they give it in Abuja, it doesn't get down until last year. In fact, precisely what started in 2021 in Port Harcourt refinery and later on in Warri refinery. So if you have anybody that works in that refinery that has been employed in the last 20 years, ask that individual if he has seen anything turnaround maintenance. But if you go to Port Harcourt refinery today, nobody will tell you, because you are going to see hundreds of people. Different, you see fitters, you see those that are welders, you see them working on the, so it is not hidden. So those ones you'll be hearing, they've been voicemail. It has actually not happened until recently.
But the history of these refineries is such that Pengerson and the oil workers and the trade union and the organized labor are part of the history of these refineries. That's the recent history. 2007, when Yar'Adua was president, labor pressured him to turn around the privatization of that. For whatever reason, yes, the process wasn't properly done. Those were the reasons given, if I remember correctly. But why would we continue to do that when we're talking about privatize these refineries so that they are operated optimally?
No, Inyota, I think that was not also correct. What happened then, if you read the book written by Segun Adeniyi, in that book written by Segun Adeniyi, you realize that, he gave the reason why Yar'Adua, upturned what Obasanjo did. It was purely political. It was not as a result of labor pressuring. What labor has... Yes, correct.
Did labor not pressure Yar'Adua?
No,
did labor not threaten to go on strike? Threaten to go on strike unless the prices are turned around or reversed? The cost of fuel reversed, the cost of diesel reversed.
Fuel, diesel, yes, correct.
Yeah. Labour threatened to go on strike unless the refineries are returned to workability.
Workability, see.
And then returned back to its rightful owners, Nigeria.
For over 20 years, Pengassan and Nupen, for over 20 years, it's on record. If you check a lot of press releases that we have done, we have been advocating that government should bring about the NLNG model in the refineries. So if we have been advocating, and I think 2007, it falls within that bracket of 20 years. We have been advocating since I have been executive in Pengassan. Our advocacy has been that the refineries, we should use NLNG model in running the refineries. That has been our advocacy. So if we have been advocating that, how come we will now also come again and be telling government that government should keep running the refineries? And if you look at the NLNG model, it is government owned, the private sector own at least 51%. Government owns the remainder. What we are even saying is that private sector could come in on maybe 51 to 60%. If government want to retain maybe for national security a little percentage, we don't have a problem with that because it is the shareholders with the highest shares that make the controlling decision. In NLNG today, government having 49%. You cannot make any decision when the other 51% comes together and take a decision. You have to follow. That is what happened. And that has been the model that we have been advocating in all the refineries for over 20 years. So for us, we still stand on that today. Now what we want government to do is to bring in a model that has worked, a model that has yielded dividend to government, a model that has employed a lot of Nigerians, a model that today is in the entire world is a flagship. That is the same model we have been advocating that government should bring to bear when we talk about the refineries. So we are not saying that government should retain the controlling shares of the refinery. That is not our advocacy and that is not our position.
So how okay, so now you're still advocating for the NLNG model for the refineries. Absolutely. But is that being worked at?
Yes.
Well, so what is happening now? Does it look like we're heading towards?
Yes, what we were told. And again, I think I should
Is that part of the demands of organized labor now?
No, it has been Pengassan's demand.
Now, is it part of your demands now?
No, now, okay, this was what they told us. You know, in 2020, a committee was set up when they started making the refinery. Then I wasn't TUC president, I was president of Pengassan. So I was in the steering committee, myself and the NUPEN president. I was representing TUC on the steering committee, then the NUPEN president was representing LNLC on the steering committee. And I bet to also tell you, one of the reasons that is making this current rehabilitation to work, in your time, you may be interested in this, before I come to your question. When they were doing the work breakdown structure and looking at the financing, this is the first time that a member of organized labor is at the steering committee. And we told them, and we placed our feet on the ground, that as at then, it was 2020, that 2023 is just around the corner. That the reason this refinery has not worked is because they will approve money in Abuja, nobody knows what happened. You won't even see any contractor recoverer coming to the site to remove any valve or any bolt. So we now said that this fund that you are about to secure must be kept in an escrow account. And that if you keep this fund in an escrow account, government will not have access to it. The Afri-Ezim that you are collecting this money from should be signatory to it. Then NNPC can be signatory to it, then the contractor. So that at every point in time, you pay the contractor as per the percentage of work done. So it is because of that. Because initially, we were scared that if this money is taken to CBN, at the end of the day, you could see the scandal today that is rocking the CBN. That is why today you could see that Port Harcourt refinery is being worked on because no government official has single access to that fund. Afri-Ezim will release to you the percentage of work done. That is why that is happening today. Then on the other leg of, are we still advocating for the refinery to be given out? Yes, we are still advocating for that. We want NLNG model to be implemented. So part of what we discussed with them, they said that when they finish this, that they are going to carry out that particular privatization by bringing in a core investor into the refinery. then government will become, will go to become, the investment of government will go down. And that they are even willing that part that government own, they could even trade it in the stock exchange. What that does, when you list a company, you open it up to the public. So people can interrogate the processes much more. People can interrogate your finances. You want to do any activity. So the shareholders have the right to ask questions. So that is what we have been advocating, and we have been able to secure that when the refineries are fixed, like the one they said will start December, and the other one next year, that they are going to bring in core investors that are going to manage the refinery.
Interesting times. But again, the PIA, when it kicked in, a lot of Nigerians were hoping that with this, we will begin to see light in these dark waters called the petroleum industry in Nigeria. But it looks as if that light has not been switched on yet, even with the PIA.
Yes. First, one of the disincentives in the Nigeria oil and gas industry has been the non-passage of PIA over the years. It really affected us because we lost massive investment because the Petroleum Industry Act now, or bill then, was never passed. Because when you tell someone that you want to change the rule of engagement, there will be sit down and wait. Let's see what the new rules will be before we bring in our money. So when that was happening, other countries, they were discovering oil fields, millions and millions of reserves. So that actually affected us in Nigeria. But now that we are here now, yes, it's also a process and it's also a journey. I could say that the implementation of PIA has not been fast-tracked the way we anticipated. Because today, you still have the NUPROC dishing out some regulations as it affects the upstreams. You still have the midstream and downstream, the NMDPRA dishing out regulations regarding the mid and downstream. So these regulations, the investors, they have to settle down. They have to look at it before they could make investment decisions. So we've not, and even think about the host community. It hasn't taken the traction.
Why are we still here? Because many, people tell us that NNPC is owned by Nigerians. Nobody, I don't know if your name has, if you've been told how many shares you own, but I haven't heard. Then we still have the price of petrol, pump price of petrol, still being somewhat regulated. And yet we say we're in a deregulated system. So why are we in this space?
Yes. So the NNPC, is also a process. I think the PIA gave the number of years that they are expected to be listed. I think it's 3 years, if I can remember very well. And again, too, the PIA also said this is the duration with which you would take to move from a corporation to a Karma company, a limited company, which they've also done. So it's a process. I think now, from the last conversations we had with the executives over there, they told us that they are preparing to be listed in stock exchange. So maybe when they now list like 10 or 20% of their shares in stock exchange, maybe you and I may have access to buy 1 or 2 units of these shares. So even the PIA is not a quick fix. They didn't say everything must happen in 1 year. So if you read that piece of legislation, extremely intelligent legislation, but it's a process that will take a while to materialize.
Now, the Nigerian petroleum industry, as it is right now, is okay. It's like standing on one leg, so to speak. And you talked about the fact that we've lost huge investment because the PIA wasn't there. But now the PIA is there, and we are still not sure where to go.
Yes, now that the PIA is there. So we also have the problem of oil theft. We also have the problem of insecurity. So this will be married together.
This matter of oil theft cannot really happen unless there's insider game.
So everybody has said it. That the problem of oil theft, it cuts across all facets. It cut across the host community, cut across security, cut across people working in the oil and gas, cut across everywhere.
Your members.
Nobody can be exonerated.
No, but has Labour called out his members, say this matter?
It's the same thing we have said, that we had an advocacy last year, where we also did advocacy to our own members. We had a congress across the 141 branches in Pengassan, where we also did that to our members, and we told them that if you see something, you must say something. In fact, we encourage our members.
If you are doing something,
we encourage our members in Yota to, so NUIMS, former NAPIMS in NNPC, they had a portal. So in that portal, you report whenever you see anything going wrong. So After that advocacy, the reporting in that portal moved up by over 100% because our members kept reporting, and that now assisted the government to look at some of these issues that were being reported, and that led to the high production that we have today, although not still satisfactory. So for us, in general, if you look at the PIA, that PIA that we are talking about, everything must be looked at holistically. You may have a good legislation, right? But that good legislation that you have today, they will also compare the fiscal terms in those regulations. The petroleum profit, for example, the royalty that you pay, if they are comparing it to a place like Guyana, so let's assume the royalty that you pay, let's assume, for argument's sake, that it's about 20%, for example. Then in Guyana, you have a field where the royalty is also 20%. You know what's going to happen? An investor will compare the state of insecurity in Nigeria. They will compare that state to also what is happening in Guyana. So even if the return on investment is the same, they will not look at other factors. Do you understand today, Nyota, that if you work in oil and gas today in Nigeria, and you are taking a vessel offshore to take some materials, to take food, to take water to those people working offshore, you need to hire a minimum of 3 or 4 security vessels that are going to go with this one vessel going to the field. So these security vessels, you have to fuel it. Security vessels, you have to pay the naval officers. You have to pay for security vessel itself. If you go to offshore installations, in one installation, you could have over 5, 6 vessels that are manned there that are protecting this installation. These add to the cost of production. But if you go to Angola, you just have from the quayside, you have a vessel goes offshore unescorted. So that cost is eliminated. So those are the challenges. So beyond the PIA, there are still some challenges that must be addressed in Nigeria before you could attract investment. More so that today we are moving into an era of climate change, an era of renewable energy. So it is a challenge. Securing funds for oil and gas is a huge challenge today because a lot of the companies that are heated to fund the oil and gas development all over the world, they are channeling a greater percentage of their funds into green energy. So for you to be able to secure investment, you must put everything right. So that is why you see most of the houses, they are rationalizing their portfolio in Nigeria today. You heard what just happened between NAOC and Oando. You also heard as well what was happening between ExxonMobil and Seplat. So these are the real challenges. So if we don't address this, it will continuously multiply.
Well, one would think that with the PIA in place now, these things will be, yes, a lot of these issues have been looked into and are being worked out, as you said, but the question of price regulation is still there. Penalty regime and fiscal provisions, all those things are still there.
Yes, correct. Like in different climes, you also have such challenge. So the main challenge today is not about regulation majorly. The main challenge today is not about the fiscal terms. No. But the main challenges that we are having in the oil and gas industry are basically, one, the issue of crude oil theft. Because today, if you produce in land location, you could produce 20,000 barrels from your production facility and you send it to the terminal. By the time it gets to terminal, about 90% of that production is lost. So as an investor, would you want, let's assume you have the best fiscal terms, or you have the best administrative terms. As an investor, would you want to come and put your money in such economy? The answer clearly is a no. As an investor, you also look at other things that I mentioned earlier, like the cost of securing your facilities. So in other parts, you don't have them. Because the more you incur cost, the more you reduce your return on investment. So it is a fundamental problem that must be addressed. So the PIA, for example, does not have anything that addresses security of offshore facilities majorly, of how you are sending vessels to the field, how you will not have sea pirates, or you will not have thieves that are attacking it. It's not there in the PIA. Even if it's there, it needs to be implemented. Who is going to implement it? It is also the IOCs. And these increase their cost and lower their profit margin. And now, these same IOCs, they don't have excess money like they do in the past that they could throw around. Most of their funds, there are regulations in their country how they could even do some investment. Like some banks, financial institutions, including IMF and all that support oil and gas, today, they've cut down on their investment massively. So as an investor, you must rationalize. If I go to Guyana, I put in $1, I could get 40 cents. Okay, good. If I go to Mozambique, I go to the gas field there, I put in $2, I could get, let's say, 30% of the return on investment. So I come to Nigeria. Even if the PIA has provided laudable and landmark reforms, but I will incur additional cost because of the state of insecurity. Then, if I'm the investor, what will I do? The decision is very easy to take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sifo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
As we conclude the show today, we extend our gratitude for joining us. Your opinions on this discussion matter to us, and you can engage with us through our social media channels displayed on your screen. Additionally, you can listen to this episode and past episodes of the program via our website at channelstv.com/podcast. I'm Neo Taigbe. Goodbye.